What's up, guys? It's Friday night and it's time to bitch about something. So, Lucas put out a video last week that I wanted to come up with a little bit deeper of a response to, but I feel like he covered it pretty well. The video was about, do you want to bring in a green tech for your first tech, or do you want to bring in someone who's experienced? I think the consensus is for your first tech, you want somebody who knows what they're doing, probably better than you do. Your job is not working in the shop, your job is running a business. If you have to live out in the shop correcting somebody, you're not running a business. You're working for yourself and trying to teach somebody in the process of turning out quality work. It's a challenge. What I felt like was more meaningful was talking about training. What is effective training? How do we train properly? We have to start somewhere. We have to have some basic knowledge. That doesn't, to me, necessarily mean oil changes and busted rubber anymore. It's real easy to train somebody to do basic services, bust tires, stuff like that. That's a critical skill, but I wouldn't call it essential. What are vehicles now? Vehicles now are rolling computers, rolling networks. Everything in a vehicle works on electricity. I think we need to have a basic understanding of electrical theory, electrical operation, and how all of those systems are integrated. I'm not talking deep level networking, I'm talking basic voltage. The stuff that Scanner Danner masterfully teaches. Huge fan of his book, huge fan of his website. Paul's pretty awesome too. Had the opportunity to meet him a couple times at ASTA, and awesome dude. But he does that for a living. He's a teacher. That using his material as a teaching tool is has been game changing for how I teach my guys. I will assign them a video to watch every week, and then we'll talk about it. The stuff that they didn't get, the stuff that they want more knowledge on, the stuff they want to understand better. We'll talk about it. And there have been times we have been at the shop. So we're trying to figure out a way to do it better. We were doing it after Friday and entirely voluntarily, but if we were going to be late, we'd get some dinner, whatever. And we would talk about the video they watched. We'd go through the workbook side of it, and then we'd field questions. We'd take questions, and there were times we were there till 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm a very firm believer, and if somebody has a question, they deserve to have a wholesome answer to it. It's really difficult to do that in some of the training sessions, and that's not a dig at the trainers at all. We have a limited amount of time in those sessions, and usually there's a lot of material to cover. Most of the training sessions I've gone to that are 4 or 8 hours, we're condensing a couple of days of material into that 4 or 8 hour block. There are absolutely questions that don't get asked, and that, again, that is nothing against the instructors. It's nothing against the events where these classes are held. It's the nature of the beast. Most instructors, I think all of the instructors I've had, make sure that you have their contact info, their email, at minimum, sometimes their phone number, where you can reach out to them with questions you have that don't get covered. The way we do it, I make sure that the guys' questions that they have, they're answered. We'll do practical stuff in the shop while we're going through it. Pull up, pull down sensors. We'll we'll go through and we'll do real live demos on pull up, pull down, how to capture it, what it looks like, what it does, what it looks like when it's not doing what it does. And we'll do that with a lot of it. We'll do load tests, we'll do voltage drop, we'll do all of those things as we're talking about them in real time so they can do it themselves, they can lay hands on it and understand it. We'll also, if I have a cool failure or a failure that's relevant, I'll grab them in the middle of the day and come here, check this out. And I'll do the test right there in front of them, and then I'll make them do it. We broke one of my guys' hearts because he was doing his first Pentastar timing chain job. I struggled getting the lock tool set up to do the phasers the first time. I showed him how to set everything up, how to set up the guide retainers, set up the blocks that go between the phasers, let him see how everything's set up. He went over to start getting tools to do it. I'm like, oh, wait, hold on a second. Pulled everything out, threw it on top of the engine. Okay, your turn. And walked away and let him do it. Personally, I don't do well when I have somebody over my shoulder. Customers don't bother me. Clients, it doesn't really bother me. I'll usually stop working when a client comes out so I can engage them the way they deserve to be engaged. But if I have one of my coworkers over my shoulder, it doesn't make me nervous, but I feel a little more pressure to do it 100% right. I don't like teaching shortcuts, not at first. I'm going to teach you how to do the job properly, by the book, 100% by the book. Then after you have mastered that and you have demonstrated you can do that, then we'll start talking shortcuts. The little caveats, the little things that they don't tell you in the service manual about things you need to check, those I do go over. Checking your journals, making sure your journals are clean. On a Pentastar especially, making sure the oil gallery bolts haven't backed out. Not that that ever happens. But how to check the cams, how to check the lifters, how to check the rockers. You know, there are things that are in the service manual but not in the procedure that I'll go through them with, and some of that is not in the service manual. So, you know, there are things I'll teach that are not in the book, but the first time they go through the job, they go through 100% by the book. The second time they go through, then I'll start showing them shortcuts once I'm comfortable that they know how to do it. And a lot of times they'll figure those shortcuts out on their own and ask me, which I love. You know, there are lots of things I've tried that didn't work. Some of them were really expensive, didn't work. So if I can avoid that happening, I will. But we learn by making mistakes. We learn by taking chances. That's how we learn. That's the best way to learn. Unfortunately, sometimes that's a really good way to learn. The other thing that I really drive into my guys that I suck at, slow down. There is nothing that has to go that immediately that it can afford you breaking something and making it take ultimately a lot longer. Slow down, read the whole procedure before you start, and make sure you have everything, make sure stuff's lined up, make sure you got your torque wrenches, whatever it is. But, you know, there's a way to train and a way not to train. I'm getting off topic. Training properly requires you to start with basics. It requires a basic level of understanding. If you're building on a foundation that is made of balsa wood, it's not going to work. That foundational knowledge has to be there. At this point, every guy that comes into our shop as a trainee, they're getting thrown electrical training right out of the gate. If you don't have electrical, what matters? You know, we don't look for lube techs. We don't look for tire busters. We don't look for guys that are happy being at the bottom of the food chain. There's nothing wrong with being a lube tech or a tire buster. They're necessary jobs in this industry. We don't target those. We want guys that want to grow out of that. You have the skills to do that, but you need to have the skills to do more. You need to have the skills to look at a check engine light and figure it out effectively, not wing it, Google it, go on YouTube, go on Identifix, and throw parts until something sticks. You need to be able to diagnose effectively. Training is the only way you do that. Either whether on the job, in the shop, lunch and learns, after hours training, major training events like ASTA Expo, Vision, there needs to be a training regimen in your shop. And training effectively is probably the most imposing responsibility, but it's also the most rewarding. Being able to train guys and watch them take off and work on their own autonomously on something they couldn't do before we did that is the best feeling on the planet. Watching them make mistakes and having the confidence to go back and try again and get it right. What's better than that? There is no better feeling than that. The only way we learn is by mistake. The only way we learn is by screwing up and figuring out why we screwed up and having the courage and self-reflection to be able to analyze that, even if you bring another person in. Okay, this is what I did, this is what I got. Okay, well, these two touched, and that's what happened. So to avoid that, do this. You know, there aren't, fortunately, I've got some experience in this. There's not a lot of mistakes I haven't made. I'm sure there are, I just haven't found them yet. But a lot of the mistakes these guys are going to make, I've already made. I can figure out, if I don't already know how they made it, I can help them figure it out so they don't do it again. That's part of training. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing, constant thing. and it is a massive responsibility to anybody doing it. You've got to be able to do that, and you've got to be able to do it with the patience, which is the biggest virtue in training that I lack, is patience. But you've got to be able to do it with patience. You've got to be able to be concise, and you've got to be open to mistakes. They have to be allowed to make mistakes. If you do not trust them enough to tell you when they make a mistake, if they don't trust you to tell you when they made a mistake, you have failed as a trainer. You have failed as a mentor. There has to be trust. There has to be patience. And there can absolutely not be a strive for perfection. Perfection comes with time. I have yet to find a perfect tech because they don't exist. None of us are perfect. We are all learning every day. But if we cannot make a mistake and go to whoever our boss is, whether it's the shop owner, whether it's shop foreman, whether it's your mentoring tech, if you cannot go to them with a mistake you made and get honest feedback on how it happened, and if you can't take that feedback, you're not trainable. But you, as a trainer, as a mentor, you have an absolute obligation to coach through the mistakes. Things are going to get broken. Some of those things are going to be expensive. Some of them are going to be really hard to find. That's part of it. It's part of the industry. Whether it's a rookie trainee who made the mistake or the 30-year master tech who made the mistake, it's really irrelevant. Mistakes happen. They get made. With trainees, they get made a lot more. So think about that. When you're training, you're not only teaching technical skills, you're teaching somebody to have confidence. You're helping develop that confidence in being willing to take on stuff they've never done before and to power through it, to research, to read, to understand, and then go execute. Mistakes get made, you move on. Take care of each other, guys. Have a great week.